Hi there, this is Ed Akins. I'm the Director of AEC Strategy and Strategic Growth at cove.tool. And today I'll be presenting some information that I've gathered from a recent report by the AIA. It's their firm survey report they do every year. This is the 2024 survey report on the business of architecture. And I just want to say, it's one of the pleasures I have at the company here. I get to dig into these reports and highlight some of the items that I find interesting, directly related to technology and sustainability in practice and resilience in the built environment. And so thought it'd be interesting to share that with you today. So let's dig right in. As I mentioned, a lot of the webinar today is going to focus on the Business of Architecture 2024 report, Firm Survey Insights, looking at the year from 2023 to 2024 for AIA firms that were surveyed. The format of this presentation today will go through some key findings. I'm just going to highlight some things that might be of interest to you if you're also interested in the area of technology and practice and sustainability and building performance, and how firms are responding to that call or integrating those components. And then I'll also end with a few tips on firm strategy and an offer we currently have at cove.tool for firms to engage in technology that supports these endeavors. So with that, digging into the report itself and the firm survey that the AIA conducted. Again, all the links will be provided right here so you can see them. But the key findings, of course, within profitability that was predicted through 2023 to 2024 and moving into 2025, pretty much holding close to what the Architectural Billing Index and the prior quarterly reports on finances and economics in the AIA have reported. The mix of projects in the new construction and renovation space have remained at about 50-50. At one point during the year, we were at a higher percentage of renovation than new construction, which was interesting to see. It was one of the first times we'd moved to that higher percentage in renovations and adaptive reuse. But what I wanted to focus on here that aligns with this area of technology and sustainability as a focus today is the amount of firms that are formally reporting some of their projects here into rating systems and formalized reports, right around 20% of the contract value for the non-residential and 22% of the residential projects. So hovering around that 20% mark. Again, we all know that the formalized strategy isn't the only strategy to deliver higher building performance in the AEC. And so we'll look at a few more of those aspects as we dig deeper into the firm survey. Also, I wanted to highlight how AI or technology in general is being adopted within practice. AI relatively new within the year for its impacts on the AEC. I would say during 2023, 2024, we saw it hit a peak in terms of its relevance and its discussion in every conference we went to and every publication that we saw. So we know it is going to have an impact. And a lot of firms understand that they're going to potentially, or at least they perceive that they will potentially lose market share if they don't become early adopters or adopters of technology and practice. So this breakdown I thought was pretty interesting, seeing that the large firms are definitely embracing it, perhaps having more overhead or more space to focus in the AI impacts on the industry. And as you look at the smaller firms, less adoption. But what I wanted to highlight today as we conclude this webinar, we'll circle back to this, is how we can help smaller firms or any size firm enter into this space with greater comfort and assurances in their project workflows. There's additional information here in terms of the gross billings and the international projects. But again, we'll stay focused on the technology and sustainability as we move through this today. So understanding that the architectural market is still very fragmented, let's say, in terms of the number of small firms, which are a majority of firms, and then the number of large firms, which are a smaller number of firms, but have higher billings and maybe higher project percentages within the market. So that's highlighted within this key findings within the AIA report and the survey. It's shown in this graph here that you could dig into and begin to see that as well. And then this spike in the concentration of these large firms with the share of billings at 72%, almost 73%. Of firm revenue nationally is something to take note of, and how these larger firms are somewhat dominating that billing landscape. And thankfully, recently we just saw that the ABI, the Architecture Billing Index, has reached even point with no loss in billings coming in. So we're hoping that continues as we head into 2025 with that recent ABI in November being released. Also, this design activity that's occurring, the billing and construction spend across different sectors. So if you're interested in the different sectors which are showing growth or showing potential for those billings to increase, whether you're a small to large firm, I think there's some really interesting insights within the firm survey report that you can dig into. But again, I want us to focus on that sustainability and technology space as we start to look at both the firm and staff profiles and the overview of key elements of activities that are going on in firms. So that's what we're going to get into now. We're going to look at what's happening in these firms with a deeper dive across the large, medium, and small firms, and as an average across them as well. So within this firm survey report, they're highlighting here the services that are provided. And what I'm trying to do here is just highlight those that relate to building performance focus, an increase in building performance for firms and how they're approaching them and who's approaching them at the largest percentage. You see here the large firms, over 70%, engaged in this design-related activity of sustainability and sustainable design. You see it tapers off a little bit as we get to small firms, but it is great to see that over 25% of firms, even in the small space of firms, are contributing time to sustainable design as they define it within the survey, with an average of 34% across all firms. If you keep looking through this, what I'm highlighting here are just some design services, which mean you can bill for these things, for resilience, climate adaptation. And this is basically looking at weather events that we have seen occurring nationally and globally that our buildings need to respond to. Our buildings will outlive us, most likely. And because of that, we need to think of the forward conditions and the future climate within which people will occupy and operate these buildings. And considering this idea of resilient design and climate adaptation is extremely important. See, large firms, again, are taking on a lion's share of that within their focus out of the group. And that the smaller firms, again, are still focused on this, which I think is optimistic in my mind, and a lot of room to grow in terms of services and how we can provide them, either integrated if they're not asked for by a client, or if a client asks for them, being able to provide them and being ready to provide them, I think is important. This climate and resilient design continues on as a separate heading, kind of parsing words here within the survey, but basically highlighting these conditions, staying in at about 12% within the billings and potential services. And then we look at certification and verification. This is what was reflected in that first overall takeaway of formalized systems, certifications, third-party review of projects. And again, we've heard from a lot of our clients that some of this is tapering off within desiring to go through the full certification process. And I think that's reflected here. Definitely a drop off in the mid-size and smaller firms for those pursuing these certifications, and the time and expertise and the third-party verification that goes along with that. So if any opportunity comes along where you can expedite those services or find value in the provision of those services from consultants, that would be something to look for so that you can continue to have this third-party verification through the processes, and also to gain that certification if a client is asking for it. Energy modeling, another area where the larger firms can, of course, include teams or individuals who can perform these tasks and specialized tasks within their office. And we see that this is holding fairly true at 20%. And the majority of the firms who are performing in-house energy modeling as a service is occurring in the larger firms, with a dramatic drop off as you get to the small and mid-sized firms as well. Again, This is an opportunity to find how technology is allowing these small and mid-sized firms to engage in energy modeling and analysis that previously they cannot enter into without added expense of overhead, added employees listed within your who you have to employ and have on staff to provide these services. So really paying attention if you're a smaller mid-sized firm to the opportunities that technology is providing for you to now gain knowledge that was only specialized or only for the large firm space previously. And for large firms, looking at diversification of your workforce, or the limitations of your workforce, I should say, where you get kind of this choke point. If you only have one group or one individual running those energy models for all of your projects, or only the projects that can go through that individual's group or division, and looking at outsourcing and other opportunities you have as technology begins to lower the cost of this analysis and then open up different rapid feedback loops for the data that's needed in that space. And building commissioning, basically reviewing the building fully for whole building compliance and energy modeling, which, whether integrated into your local codes from the authority having jurisdiction, requested through the process for permitting, those components, whether that's done in-house or through consultation. Again, technology might open it up to where you can in-house work directly with a consultant differently than having it, completely outsourced, where it's a combination of in-house activity and consultation to allow you to have more engagement in that space. There's a lot of opportunity there and potential billing opportunity there as well. The report went on to look at the consultation space, like who is being hired as a consultant and what are they being hired for. And again, with this focus on the sustainability space and climate planning, I wanted to highlight a few things that caught my eye. Of course, we all know the MEP engineer space is consistent across all projects, and we bring them into every project that we work on. And a lot of firms lean on their mechanical engineers, somewhat on their electrical engineers, to fulfill this role of increased building performance. So in general, if I go back, when we look at engineers basically fulfilling the needs of a project, especially a project that is requiring increased building performance, we start to lean on the MEP engineers that we already have that relationship with. But again, they may be limited in the time they can spend or the expertise they can provide to a project. So that's why I kind of moved past that to then look at specialization in the building performance space. So that starts with envelope consultants, looking at the building envelope and bringing them in as an understanding. And we can look at the mix here. I just wanted to highlight that mix there. And then also building performance model consultants, where you're actually looking at whole building models and looking at predictive energy use intensity, looking at components of carbon and embodied carbon within the building, and who is doing this. Again, the large firms, close to 50%, and then not as big of a drop-off as you get to the mid-sized firms, and more of a drop-off, of course, with these smaller firms. And it might be their sector, it might be the region they're operating in, or client needs that's impacting that percentage use. When you look at sustainability consultants, named, a formal name for that group, really the highest use gets at your mid-size and large firms. And so what we see is that the small firms may not be able to have access to some of that input coming from sustainability consultants, almost like it's a nice to have. But what we're seeing is that in code adoptions across the US, definitely internationally, we have increased requirements for building performance, increased requirements for embodied carbon. And because of this, we don't want small firms to be left behind. We want them to have access to that data, access to those resources. So again, this idea of finding technology or finding consultation that is going to be non-cost prohibitive to your projects and easily integrated into your workflows is key. Especially as you want to up those percentages, which in the small firms are lingering at 9%. And even in the mid to large firms, I think the increase in use of a sustainability consultant, if the information is provided faster, verified, and at a potential cost savings to the project than typical standard processes that did not leverage technology, there's an opportunity emerging in the market that we need to pay attention to. Climate resilient consultants could be grouped right in with sustainability consultants, of course, but this idea of future-proofing buildings needs to be top of mind for designers, and thinking about the long life of a building and the future uses of a building, which hopefully your buildings can accommodate a variety of uses so they stay on Earth longer and have greater use longer. That kind of consultation, I think, is only increasing and is also a potential service benefit for architects. So going through those charts just highlighted a lot of the sustainability focus that is in the firm survey report. But I want you to go look at it, of course, at some point and dig out other information that's related to your own practice. Those are just the highlights I wanted to show, and the variation based on whatever firm size you have and where you sit within that landscape. The key findings that were summarized in the report, I wanted to show these as the final overview here for the sustainability space related to firm size. And what I found really interesting, at least one member of these firms are on payroll maintaining specialty sustainability or resilience accreditations. So if you have a lead AP on staff or well AP or any of these other systems of verification of training, 56% of firms have one of these individuals. I think it's great to have this individual in-house. I think firms should try to push above this 56% in the makeup of firms across the US that were surveyed to make sure that you have some level of expertise so you can understand both the definitions of their requested from a client, the in-house goals that might be set up for you through alignment in AIA and the AEC industry and where things are moving so that you don't get left behind. And then also just making sure that building performance is part of the constant conversation in-house. Having one of these individuals is, of course, critical, but it's not necessary. You can also have other individuals passionate about the built environment and our impact on the overall environment through the building industry. And again, try to find those individuals and give them a few small wins on projects to encourage them to speak up and to be engaged within your firm and take action, no matter what size firm you have. 42% of the firms reported wanting to hire someone or acquire some kind of sustainability and resilience insights and skills into their office. This is a reflection either of client need or it's maybe fear of missing something in the market, or maybe just seeing a gap in terms of project delivery over past projects where you want to enhance and increase services. And when you find that opportunity to increase services, perhaps there's an opportunity for new billing, new markets to open up where those services could be itemized and contractually added to your agreements with clients. So opportunities there, and it looks like 40% of firms are looking for that opportunity moving forward. And then this is the one I wanted to linger on a little bit and give you some takeaways today related to this, is this idea of having strategy related to sustainability and climate action. No matter what's happening in the regulatory environment, no matter what's happening within project delivery requests from clients, having some plan as a firm is extremely important moving into this next decade. As we definitely near 2030 and the needs for reducing our impact on the environment globally, how does each project that we touch, that we create, that we design, how does that add up to something bigger or add up to something that has minimal impact on the environment to consider future generations? And so only 16% of all firms reported they had an action plan in 2023. And the larger firms of that 16% were a majority of folks who had that plan. They may even have a committee or a director that's overseeing that plan. And it definitely drops off in the mid-sized to smaller firms. So hopefully, if you're in the mid-sized to smaller firms, you can look at some of the takeaways that I'm going to cover next and be able to engage in this conversation that you might not be engaged in currently, And if you're a percentage of those large firms already doing this, this may provide additional insights. Or if you're not in that percentage of large firms, you can now be in that percentage to bump this up from, only 16% of the market really having that plan. So the most common element that they highlighted was a sustainability plan, and with internal processes like recycling and composting. What I wanted to get at is this, at the end of this one here, firm-wide commitments and project-based performance targets. 67% of those who have a plan within that 16% of firms are including these project-based performance targets and firm-wide commitments. How many projects are approaching that increased performance characteristic? That's important to take note of. And that's an area where the impacts aren't just how we ourselves are operating our firms, but how the projects that we touch are impacting the environment and the quality of buildings out there. So that brings me to the next takeaways, and where we can begin to focus on tracking how we're doing, contributing to the information necessary for us to understand our markets and sectors and how we are impacting the environment, each project at a time, and then taking an assessment of how our own firm is tracking. Are we doing better from year to year? Are we doing worse from year to year? The only way to know is to collect the data and create a database of the project data, which again, we just looked at the percentages. Not a lot of folks are engaging in sustainability consulting. Not a lot of folks are doing their own energy modeling. So therefore, getting that data and recording that data on past projects, current projects, and future projects is a non-starter for some firms. So you need help. It's obvious. We all need help trying to get this information, trying to capture this information, and kind of having it verified and accurate related to our projects. And so that brings me to the AIA's 2030 DDX, which is the database, the design database for validating your design approaches, creating your firm culture, because you can then point to something and say, this is what we're doing, or we're going to do this for 10% of our projects, 15% of our projects this year. We're going to have a plan. And then benchmarking the firm progress related to other firms, but also you'll be able to market what you're doing. You'll be able to maybe enter into new markets or strengthen markets that are requesting this, or go into jurisdictions which have already adopted aggressive strategies for building performance. And then overall, just contributing to the architectural community. So you help everyone understand what's going on, help everyone kind of create a baseline of what's possible, and then see where the market's headed. So if you go to the AIA website for the 2030 DDX and the 2030 challenge, basically on there, you'll be able to sign in and log in if you've already logged in to contribute your project information, whether it's one project or all of your projects from last year, whatever level of contribution you want to contribute. Just to get in there and start doing it is great. But here I'm going to show you the question mark on this page. Again, this is 2030DDX, AIA.org. If you go to the question mark here, right there, you'll be able to basically get into their support website. And on the support website, you'll be able to find definitions of the program, answer all your questions there. You'll be able to do focused searches for information related to your own firm needs, whether you are a seasoned professional within this or you're just starting out. And you'll be able to look through the database of projects as well. What I wanted to show you is another way to get to the database of projects without going into that website. So I just did a quick search on Google for the 2030 DDX and the AIA Sustainable Action Plan Guide, SAP Guide. So I just did a quick search for that, and I'll show you what came up on this one. So basically going in, looking for this, trying to find information on it if you're just starting out, or to find out how some other folks have approached it. You see the standard 2030 DDX site, but then here, this is the support page, same one we were just on, again with definitions. And this is basically the collection of sustainable action plans where firms have committed to something within their firm. They have committed to project performance, internal actions, It links to the PDF from the AIA on creating a sustainable action plan that works, which is really great. It guides you in terms of setting realistic goals, creating change management strategies in the firm. But what I really wanted to highlight is the examples of SAPs that are there. So you can, depending on your firm size, or even if you want to look at different firms and how they're doing it, this is what you could aspire to. This is what you could learn from and critique in terms of the way in which you consolidate the ideas, the goals towards resilience and sustainability for your firm. And again, multiple examples. Thank you to these firms who have uploaded those and allowed for the sharing of this information to others to increase their practice. That covers a majority of the sustainability insights that I saw within the AIA Firm Survey report. And like I promised, I wanted to circle back to this issue of technology adoption and basically what firms are doing, or even how our firm is beginning to help out within this space, knowing that getting over that hurdle of embracing AI, embracing technology, if you have not before, or just seeing what it can offer, is part of the challenge in and of itself. And so what I'll highlight here, I'll just show you real quick an example from our Vitros AI website. And here, the sample that's showing here is a zoning analysis that you can just go in, type in minimal information, location of your project, size, occupancy, and then look up your zoning location to create a report where we're using AI to actually filter through the endless variations of how zoning reports are written, or zoning codes are written, and then give you a usable report that you can use on a project early on in pre-design, where we know you're not getting the highest fees and some folks aren't even billing. And so wanted to highlight that. But then I also wanted to share that as we close out here today, I just want to share something with you real quick. It's a QR code we have exiting from this, where basically the QR code that I have available right here in the upper corner, if you scan that, we have a current offer for signing up for basically a free project consultation that leverages technology and sustainability for your firm. It does not matter at what stage you are in terms of adoption of technology, what level of sustainability is asked for within your projects from your clients or in-house. But basically, if you scan the QR code here, you'll be able to sign up for this promotion. And we're going to be helping you with energy analysis and climate analysis on your projects using our AI and technology embedded in the process for you and validated through our experts here at cove.tool. So just wanted to share that as a takeaway today, and something that you can put to use immediately just by simply scanning the QR code and joining us in this journey to accepting technology into the space of sustainability and building performance. A necessary move as we close out 2024 and enter into 2025, heading closer and closer to 2030 and the goals that we've set as a profession to do better and to increase the environment for future generations. So that was a fast takeaway, and thanks for joining me. We're at our 30-minute mark, and I hope you have a great day and great into the year, and you enter towards 2030 into 2025 with confidence and optimism, and that we can help you in that journey.